Lots to cover. First, some news on Monday. Cardinal Angelo de Donatis, the Pope's vicar for the Diocese of Rome, became the highest-ranking Catholic official known to test positive for coronavirus. De Donatis' office said he was tested for the virus after feeling unwell and was admitted to a Rome hospital. His closest aides have gone into voluntary quarantine as a precaution. The Pope is the actual Bishop of Rome, but appoints someone to act as his vicar to administrate the vast diocese. De Donatis, who is 66, is not believed to have had personal contact with Pope Francis recently. The Vatican said on Saturday that the Pope and his closest aides did not have the virus. At least 60 priests have died in Italy due to the coronavirus. A total of 13,115 people in Italy have succumbed to the effects of this plague, about a third of the deaths around the world. On March 25th, Italian Bishop Angelo Moreschi became the first bishop to perish after contracting the coronavirus. And the beloved pastor of a New York City church has become the first Catholic priest in the United States to die from the virus. Father Jorge Ortiz Garay served as a pastor of St. Bridget's Church in Brooklyn. He died in a hospital on Friday. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio said, quote, "This is a sad time and a tremendous loss for the Diocese of Brooklyn. Father Jorge was a great priest, beloved by the Mexican people, and a tireless worker for all the faithful in Brooklyn and Queens," end quote. Father Jorge was born in Mexico City. He became a priest in the U.S. after working as a lawyer. He was just 49 years old. The coronavirus has killed 1,200 New Yorkers, which has become the U.S. epicenter of the disease with a growing surge of cases. And more sad news from Africa. Cardinal Philippe Ouedraogo of Burkina Faso was tested positive for the coronavirus. Ouedraogo, who is 75, is said to be in good condition, and his close collaborators are self-isolating. The cardinal is president of the African Continental Bishops' Conference. He's been Archbishop of Burkina Faso for 10 years. That country was the largest coronavirus outbreak in West Africa, with 249 documented cases as of March 31st. The coronavirus has spread throughout the African continent to 47 countries. Back here in the U.S., with more of the country under stay-at-home orders, Catholic dioceses have suspended masses and other sacraments to comply with government orders, all days before Holy Week. But is the forced suspension of Catholic worship just, or is it a violation of the Constitution's guarantee of religious expression? My first guest is a moral theologian who believes the U.S. bishops should resist the orders to close their churches. She and other prominent Catholics have joined together in an open letter urging Catholic bishops to restore the sacraments to the faithful who need them, particularly now. Joining me is retired professor of moral theology at Sacred Heart Major Seminary in Detroit, Michigan, Dr. Janet Smith. Dr. Smith, I've been very concerned about the religious liberty implications here. I mean, at times, as in 9/11, we cede liberties to the government that we never get back. Are you worried that the rush to protect people from this virus, in the doing, they might be trading a cherished American right to religious expression?
Well, I am, of course. And I think that unless the bishops make a really strong stand that these are essential services, religion is not just something like football games on Sunday afternoon. All right, and taking the Blessed Sacrament or taking the anointing of the sick to someone who is dying in the hospital is not like taking roses. All right, this is an essential thing to Catholic people. This is practicing our faith, and so we're not just giving up something that is optional. It's absolutely necessary to our spiritual faith. Yet we can suspend things for serious reasons, but
Sure.
We we just doing it, and it seems to be a bit cavalierly. The bishops, I heard of a bishop recently who was talking to his priests, and one priest wanted to hold a mass in a parking lot. Everybody goes in their car, everybody stays in their cars. There's virtually no possibility of spreading the virus. Zilch, none. And the bishop said no. And the reason he said no was he wasn't certain that it didn't violate the state directive that there can't be large public gatherings. And I asked, did he call and ask All right. Did he call and ask? Why just
Yeah. Well,
accept?
where, Dr. Smith, I wonder, every one of these conferences have lawyers at their behest. They have a team of lawyers that deal with all manner of things. Why can't the lawyers remind the bishops, you have a First Amendment right here. You have a right to religious expression. And if you look closely at these statutes that are being passed in the states and the bans being passed, in some of them, in Texas, in Florida, there are carve-outs, and they're saying churches are essential services. So they're giving the bishops and the priests the leeway, and the pastors the leeway to do something that's creative here. Now, you've spearheaded a national campaign urging all the U.S. bishops to restore the sacraments to the faithful after they were abruptly cut off because of this pandemic. Is this responsible, given the spread of the coronavirus?
We don't intend to violate any of the public directives. We think it all can be done with full respect for the public directives. We don't want to put anybody at risk. All right. And we don't even want to put them at much risk as is the typical grocery store clerk. They're at tremendous risk. They're not at 6 feet from anybody. All right. They're touching this, they're touching that. Everybody else is putting their card in and out. We want people to go to a parking lot in their cars and stay in their cars. How is this a risk? People are giving confession. They're definitely 8 feet away from a priest who's hearing their confession. This is fully in accord with all directives. So why are we suspending things that we're not? I mean, abortion clinics are still operating. Liquor stores are still operating. Why can't churches be open? Why can't people go in? We can stay 6 feet apart. We can have people just like they are sanitizing restaurants and sanitizing grocery stores. We can do all of that.
Yeah, a piece of it, it seems to me, is, and maybe the bishops are being given legal counsel. You don't want to be on the hook for this in case, a pastor says, well, I'll let 10 people into the church and somebody gets sick. Maybe that's the precaution here. But if you're talking about a car, as the next pastor will introduce you to, he's implemented this, and it's working beautifully, as you'll see in a moment. President Trump said this on Wednesday. Janet, I want you to listen.
My biggest disappointment is that churches can't meet in a time of need. This is really a great time for churches to be together, for people to get together on a Sunday or whenever, any day, and meet. And yet, if you do that, if you do it close, you're really giving this invisible enemy a very big advantage. So it's the biggest, I think, the single biggest disappointment.
Janet, do you think the administration and the state government should be granting waivers or carve-outs for churches, assuming they social distance?
Absolutely. It seems to me that they tend to think of religion, again, as just some sort of social event, like a sporting event. It's not that, right? This is the deepest part of our being. We think that we live in order to worship, all right? So yes, living is extremely important, but the purpose of our living is to worship, and you're taking away our very purpose. Again, if it were in fact truly risking people's lives, we would not ask for this. But people
and let's lay out briefly, Janet, what are you asking the bishops in this letter, which has been signed by a slew of Catholic leaders? Run through some of the requests here.
Well, some of the requests, simply is to try their hardest to make certain that we can get the sacraments that in ways that honor the directives. And you might say, oh, well, they're trying to do that. But we haven't. Tell us that. Show us that. Make an explanation about why you decided to do X, Y, or Z. And then, for instance, they have dispensed us all from going to Mass on Sunday. But what does that really mean? People are watching it on TV. Does that count in some sense? Is there something else we should be doing? Do the bishops saying, well, if you can't go to Mass, which you can't on Sunday, unless it's in a car, in a parking lot, which are perfectly safe, this is what you should be doing to sustain your spiritual life. I want them to be giving us explanations and directives, explanations on why they're doing what they're doing. And I hope that their intention is that they're sitting around brainstorming with everybody to say, how can we make certain that those who want to be baptized get baptized without risking anybody's lives? How do we make certain that confessions heard. How do we make certain that people can go to Mass and adoration? I mean, even if I've seen pictures of a bishop outside of a church with the monstrance and a pray-do, and he's praying
Yeah.
there with the monstrance, and people are driving by or parking their cars in the parking lot and doing adoration. This is not the same thing as watching something on TV. We are people
I
of the
agree with you.
we're people of the incarnation. You know, if you go to a mass of 4 million people in the Philippines when the Holy Father comes, you don't much see the Pope. He is so far away, you don't see him. But, you know, you are there in a more meaningful way than someone who is sitting at home and sees a close-up of the Pope at the altar. We believe that being physically present matters. And so we want that. We want, if we can do it safely. And I just can't see that it can't be done safely.
Yeah, well, Janet, the thing that worries me is the cultural analysis here, which is if you begin to acclimate people to compartmentalizing their faith somewhere between The Price is Right and Netflix, I worry that it becomes a kind of dial-up religion that when it's over, you just click it off and it's contained to the screen and they won't show up next Sunday. When this thing lifts in a month from now, 2 months from now, I mean, my personal belief is we could be talking 8 more weeks here of quarantine for the country or parts of the country. What happens during that time? Holy Week at home, basically. I think you've got to make extraordinary efforts as you would in wartime. We keep talking about wartime. If this is wartime, act like it's wartime. And in wartime, you had heroic priests on the bow of ships, in the battlefield. We need, as the Pope said early on, we need the field hospital. Where is the field hospital at this point? Field hospital seems to be absent in the Catholic sense.
Yeah, it's this again with the anointing of the sick. That's the most serious one to me. We can live without the Blessed Sacrament, but we shouldn't be dying without the Blessed Sacrament. And if nurses and doctors go into these wards with their full equipment and feel reasonably safe, I know I have a picture on Facebook of one of my former students who is a priest now. He's got the whole personal protective equipment, and then he goes in to anoint patients. Again, this is not bringing flowers to the dead. This is bringing something that is incredibly essential to this person. This person is a Catholic, and this person has practiced their faith and wants to practice their faith up to the last minute of their time on the face of this. And
I agree. I don't know what could be. I don't know what could be more important, Janet. And I with you, I worry. You know, the Wuhan virus came to the United States and the world, and it has transformed us all into Chinese Catholics in many ways. Underground, everything's underground now. And I do worry, and there are exceptions to this. We had Bishop Strickland here last week. There are bishops in the Midwest. My next guest bishop, they are making creative accommodations to try to find ways to, within safety, with an eye to public safety, reach the faithful with the sacraments. And that's their job. Have you heard from any bishops as a result of this campaign and this open letter?
No, and in a certain sense, I don't expect to. But we're Catholics are creatures of hope, and I'm full of hope. Maybe a fantasy, but I believe in the miraculous. I would just love to have the bishop say, thank you, and thank Raymond Arroyo, and thank all these people who are trying to help. We're lay people, and we're trying to help. We're not trying to use this as an opportunity to slam the bishops one more time. We're trying to say, bishops, these are our spiritual needs, right? You are the ones who are responsible. And I'm just hoping some bishop somewhere will say, thank you. We're so busy with so many things. This is great to have this degree of feedback from very thoughtful Catholics who have laid this out for us, who have gotten all these other names to get our attention. It's hard to get our attention because we're busy with all these things. You send a letter, you make a phone call, it's not going to be answered. You put up an open letter that gets 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 signatures, I hope. We're going to pay a little bit of attention. And we don't take this as adversarial. We take this as we're in cooperative discernment on how
when I read this, I thought this is an urgent spiritual need that you are setting on paper. It's an urgent spiritual need. And I'm not sure, because it's a moment of crisis, because you even have bishops who are ill with this thing, this COVID-19, I think everybody's topsy-turvy and a little off balance. But I can tell you, as I read your letter, as I'm watching what's playing out across the country, I thought, I wanted to have you here because if Mother Angelica were around today, I can promise you, almost with certainty, that she would be urging more sacraments for more people in this dire moment. That is the medicine, the spiritual medicine needed, perhaps more than any other at this moment. And that will fortify our people on the front lines, our doctors, our nurses, to continue in what is a hard and awful battle. But you need the spiritual sustenance or you will just wither. So the letter is weareaneasterpeople.com. You can find it there. That's the open letter that Dr. Smith was talking about. Keep in touch with us. Let us know what the reaction is in the days ahead, Janet.
Great. Thanks for having us on, and thanks for the support.